Welcome, friends. We are getting our party started here for welcome to Be A Waymaker, the virtual fundraising event for the Young Center. As we are gathering, it's going to take a couple minutes for us to get situated. So I invite you to introduce yourself in the chat, say your name, where you are in the world, perhaps a special wish for the Young Center this evening. Again, it's going to take us a couple minutes to get situated. I see that there's 73 participants in our virtual party. Azúcar. We're celebrating the little Gloria Stefan in the background. I'm Cuban, so we're honoring our people. Hello there, Stella from Hoboken. And Linda from Hermosa Beach. Bienvenidos. Welcome. And as you put your name in the chat, we will shout you out. Hello there, Hannah, tuning in from the Upper West Side. Yes, New York City in the house. And Andrea from Los Angeles. Welcome. Bienvenidos. And Tessa from Brooklyn. Hello, Lorena. Lovely to see you in Chicago. And Carolina in Chicago. Yesenia in Houston. Beth in PA. Ooh, we're storming in here. Yes. Christine from New Jersey, Esme from Chicago, Kathy from Jersey City, and from Oaxaca, Mexico. Bienvenido, Kathleen. And Brittany's watching from Washington Heights. I'll spare you my show tunes from In the Heights. Hello, Zena from Chicago. Kathy is thanking the Young Center from the Hamptons by way of Manhattan. And Daryl is in Lower Manhattan. Cynthia in San Antonio, Texas. And we're just going to take a couple minutes again. We'll start at 6:05, but we wanted to just allow people to gather into space here. We have around 80 people. Hello, Priscilla and Teddy from New Jersey. And if you do have any wishes for the Young Center as we're gathering here to celebrate the amazing work that they do, if there are any special wishes or acknowledgements or celebrations that you'd like to add in the chat, we would love that. Hi, Trisha from San Francisco, Karen from East LA, Anna and Christian in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Amy from Long Island City in Queens. Yes, Queens is in the house. I see we have several boroughs of New York represented. We have Brooklyn, we have Manhattan, and we also have Queens that I'm hearing. Sarah's from London, but really Brooklyn. I hear you. I am currently exiled from my home in Brooklyn in Miami Beach, hence the tropical art sponsored by my mother. Yara is sending love, equality, and justice for the Young Center. Thank you, Yara. That is something we all need a little bit of flavor of in our lives right now. Absolutely. Thank you for that wish. Hi there, Brian in the East Village. And again, any other special wishes that we have for the Young Center, some intentions to share about their amazing work in New York and all over the United States. AJ is giving so much love and appreciation for all the supporters and the staff and the volunteers. Absolutely. Let's give them all a virtual round of applause. A little applause to all of the Young Center team for all the amazing work that they're doing. And again, if you're joining us, this is an opportunity to share your name, where you are in the world. I know we are in this virtual Zoom space on Planet Zoom, listening to Gloria Stefan and the rhythm of the islands, which is where my family is from. Hello, Maritza from McAllen, Texas. Carolina is saying you do amazing work and sends all her love and support to the team and the staff. Stella acknowledges your courage, your compassion, and your impact. Christine thanks you for everything you do. Yes, thank you so much. And again, for those who are joining us, an opportunity to introduce yourself in the chat. Mary Catherine, welcome from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are going to get our party started. It is 6:05. Welcome all of you. It's been so beautiful to say your names and to honor where you are joining us from as you are gathering here in this virtual communal space here on Planet Zoom. Before we begin in the work that I have the privilege of doing in Australia, they have an amazing tradition called an Acknowledgement of Country. So before we launch into our program, I want to take a moment to acknowledge that I am standing in Miami Beach, Florida, and I am standing on Tequesta Seminole land, and an opportunity for those of you, wherever it is that you are joining us, to honor the names of the indigenous tribes on whose land you are standing. And I invite you to use the chat as an opportunity to maybe share the names of the people on whose land you are standing throughout the United States. And I'll take a moment to pause. For those of you who are joining in New York, Lenni Lenape land, and in Potawatomi land in Chicago, Kathleen is joining us in the land of the Delaware. Stella is on Lenape land. And as these names filter through, let us take a moment to acknowledge ancestors and elders that are past, present, and emerging. Welcome, friends, to Be A Waymaker, the Young Center's New York first ever virtual fundraising event. We were supposed to gather in New York City in a cozy Manhattan apartment for a beautiful evening, but instead, here we are, socially distancing and gathering as is appropriate during a global pandemic. In preparation for this event, I had the opportunity to reflect and look into some of the stories of the children served by the Young Center. And I remember the story of Yesenia, a 2-year-old who was forcibly and wrongfully separated from her father at the border. Because of the Young Center and the child advocate assigned to the case, they were able to successfully prove that the government did not have a cause to separate them, and father and daughter were reunited. For Gabriel's journey began in his home country, surrounded by violence after years of resisting recruitment into local gangs. And at the age of 12, he took off on a harrowing journey that included inter-country train rides, a year trapped in Mexico, and being held for ransom by cartel members. When he finally made it to the border, he was immediately taken into custody. Because of the current administration's policies, there was no way for him to be released from detention. It is because of a Young Center child advocate that a relationship of trust was able to emerge between Gabriel and the Young Center staff member, who was able to make a case that what he needed to be was transferred into a foster home. Today, Gabriel is thriving in a new home, supported, given the care and the support that every child deserves. And in thinking of those stories, I thought of Jose Maria, who at 15, with 4 siblings and his parents, because his eldest brother was executed in the village that they were from, crossed the border of the Pyrenees into the south of France, and then from the south of France boarded a boat to Cuba. Or Felix, who at 11, holding his mother's hand in 1959, came to the United States, leaving behind the home that they knew and loved. Or Aurora, who at 11 also boarded a plane with her mother and was put in a boarding school in West Palm Beach, Florida, before her mother returned to the home country, hoping and praying and waiting for the situation in that country to stabilize, which it didn't. Jose Maria is my grandfather. Felix and Aurora are my parents. My name is Eduardo Placer. I am the grandson and the child of immigrant children. There are many things I have the privilege of doing in the world. I am a social impact entrepreneur. I'm a public speaker. I am a story doula. I'm a global community builder. And tonight, in that lineage of immigrant children, I have the privilege of being your MC and your host. This evening is a celebration. It is a celebration of the Young Center, and it is a fundraiser to support the work of the New York office in its work in advocating for these children who come to this country on their own, separated from their loved ones. The run of the evening is really simple. We have some amazing artists. We have storytellers. We have singers. We have storytellers who are going to be sharing stories, celebrating immigrants and immigrant culture. This is the agenda of the evening. So we are going to be flowing through that in a beautiful way. We have some backups should technology fail us, knowing that, of course, we're in Zoom land. So we acknowledge your generosity and your patience, you know, as we are navigating the technologically here. And let me share some of the information here around how we can participate and support in the fundraising. So Nurjahan is the support here. We have raised so far $220,000 of our goal of $250,000. So round of applause to everyone who has made that happen. I have this little gesture, we call it elevated sparkulation. So we can elevate it, sparkulate, we can celebrate. AJ's saying, yay, yes. We can get virtual applauses. Carolina is saying bravo, which means that we have a gap of $30,000 to raise this evening. So there are various ways that you can do that. One is you can donate via text, a donate YC, and you can type in the numbers 201201. That is a great opportunity to contribute and to donate. Another option is to do the auction site. We have an amazing auction site, which you may or may not know. We will put the bit.ly link to that, which is a condensed URL. So you just get to copy and paste that. We'll also put that in the chat. And we have amazing items. We have books, we have art, and so much more. And again, all of these proceeds are going to support our work with immigrant children. We also have some surprises along the way. It's a surprise, so I'm not going to tell you about that yet. And I'm also excited to share that at the end of the evening, we have a very special premiere, a video of the amazing work that the Young Center is responsible for here in the United States. So just know that at the end, we have this premiere. It's a 6-minute video. It'll be at the completion of our evening and an opportunity for you to stay on and witness and celebrate all of that work. So now, to kick us off, I am so excited to introduce a group. They are the winners of the Alliance of Latinx Theater Artists in Chicago. They are the Mariachi Sirenas, and they're the first all-woman mariachi band in Chicago, and they are streaming in live. Yes! Epa! Señoritas, I love the masks. The masks are hashtag everything. So they're gonna kick us off as is celebratory style. Chicago is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mariachi Sirenas. Brava! Yes, I'm wearing my sarape mask.
Thank you so much to this great organization, this nonprofit that's doing amazing things on behalf of Mariachi Sirenas. We are all children of immigrants, so especially in a time like now, thank you so much. We're not going to get into it because then we'll start crying, but thank you so much to this organization for letting us be a part of this. Thank you so much, everyone that's joining. You are making the difference here.
Yvette and company, I just want to let you know that you are getting so much love in the chat. Muchísimas gracias. Enhorabuena. Felicidades. Thank you so much for kicking us off in just the way that we wanted. Mwah.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias. Okay, great. So what a beautiful opportunity to start off with celebration and music and song. And now it is my pleasure as we start launching into our program to introduce, she may not need an introduction for the majority of you, and for some, she may. This may be your first time joining us here with the Young Center. It is my privilege to introduce Maria Walchen, the Executive Director and Founder of the Young Center for Immigrant Children's Rights. Maria, we are going to wait for her to zoom in. It's working, we've landed on Planet Zoom. Yeah, so Teresa, by the way, just said a very long bio because she's a very, very, very accomplished and
no, one word bio.
One word bio, 2 words, Executive Director, period.
Thank you, yes.
So Maria, just so much love for you and just excited to launch us off here and an opportunity to share about the Young Center for those who this may be their first time joining us. We have a little surprise, you know, here in our little Young Center narrative. So Maria, why don't you take it away and give us a little scope of the Young Center, and then I know there's some other people that you want to give voice to as well.
Great, thanks so much, Eduardo, and thank you to the Mariachi Sirenas. You were amazing. Thank you everyone for being here this evening. As Eduardo says, we really have an incredible program. So I'm going to start out with some thank yous. And first I would like to thank some of the people who made this evening possible, who put together the match fund and have been supporting the Young Center. So Michael Becker and T. Scatorcio, Joan and Michael Frankel, our amazing Young Center Board of Directors, Angela and Joel Solomon, Phyllis Schwartz, who has been a supporter since the very beginning, and all of the members of our host committee, Kevin Cathcart, Brenda Halkias, Kathy Taub and Lowell Freeberg, Penny Wendell and John Klein, Lori Becker, and Sugarlift. And then very briefly, a shout out to our foundation partners, Help for Children, the Robin Hood Foundation, Mother Cabrini Foundation, Bay and Paul Foundation, eBay, and the New York City Council. Thank you all so much. We
give them all a round of applause wherever we are. Yes.
So I just want to explain a little bit about what we do before we get started. Our job at the Young Center is to serve as child advocate for unaccompanied children. And these are kids who arrive on their own from all over the world. Today, as most of you know, most of the kids are coming from Central America, but we see kids from Somalia, Ghana, India, China, Romania, everywhere. And the Young Center has been appointed to many of the kids who are separated from their parents at the border. Many of you, I'm sure, have been reading about that for the last couple of years. These are kids, all of these kids are on their own. They're away from family. As Eduardo said, they are away from all that they know. So our job is to advocate for their best interests, which really means their safety and well-being. Our team are lawyers, social workers, volunteer coordinators, and case support associates who advocate for these kids as long as they are on their own. They work to find their parents, to get them released to their families from custody, to make sure they don't end up in adult immigration detention, and to fight for their right to remain in the United States if that is their wish. We advocate with these kids with all the decision makers in the immigration system, and there are lots of them, immigration judges, asylum officers, the custodial officials, and ICE. And our job ultimately is to make sure that wherever these children land, it's where they want to be and it's where they feel safe. We also at the Young Center do policy work. Right now we're focused on the border closure. Many of you may know about that as well. Our government today is turning all of these kids away. They arrive alone and then they're turned back. Some of the kids are put on airplanes right back to their countries. Some of the kids are sent right back over the border, over the bridge to Mexico, without anyone asking these kids, will you be safe? Do you have a parent in home country? Who will you return to? And so this is a big effort on our part to end this policy of closing the border. We are a national organization, of course, with our office in New York, but we also have offices in 7 other cities. I'll go through them really quick: Los Angeles, Phoenix, San Antonio, Houston, Chicago, DC, and Harlingen, Texas, which is on the border. New York is one of our largest child advocate programs. And you may not know this, but there are detention beds and foster homes for more than 1,500 children in New York City. And many of the very young kids separated from their parents are, in fact, placed right here in New York. So tonight's event, as Eduardo said, is to support the work of our New York office and our national advocacy on behalf of these kids. I just want to briefly introduce, they're not with me, but our staff in New York who are just tremendous. Liz Frankel, who's our associate director. Shayna and Priscilla are our managing staff in New York. Abena, Rebecca, Jeff, Isabella, Benny, Camila, Hannah, Katarina, and Connie. These folks are the ones who are working so hard to make sure these kids have an advocate by their side every step of the way, an adult who is their ally and not fighting against them, an adult who is there to champion their wishes. These folks work so hard. They fight, they cajole, they talk nicely, they argue, they persuade judges, they persuade even ICE officers sometimes to make decisions that are in the child's best interest. These people are there for all of these kids who we're appointed to. And thanks to all of your support tonight, they will continue to be there for these kids. So I'm going to turn it back over to you, Eduardo.
Maria, that's unbelievable. Just a moment of pause and just applause for the entire New York City team and all of the staff of the Young Center for this extraordinary work. And Maria, I mean, I think it's important to just pause and acknowledge that you are responsible for creating the Child Advocate Program for immigrant children, that you are really at the intersection of that moment historically to create that opportunity. And because of you, now the Young Center has over 8 locations with over 70 staff. And it's an honor to introduce Young Zheng Sullivan, who is the Young Center's namesake. And Young was one of the first unaccompanied children that the Young Center served. And he's generously allowed the Young Center to use his name. And Young, we're allowing you to land here on Planet Zoom, and we're gonna do a little, perhaps, he said, she said. Hi there, Young, welcome.
Hey, Eduardo, hey, Maria, how are you?
Yeah.
Hi, Young, how are you?
Doing well.
I feel like this is like the original cast of like a chorus line or Hamilton. You know, when we land on stage, it's like, it all began here, you know? Right. Young, an opportunity perhaps for you to just share a little bit about your journey and how you ended up here in the United States, and then the intersection of Maria, and then now what we have is the Child Advocacy Program.
Yeah, sure. So I came from a very small village in southeastern China. So, you know, essentially I'm like one of those guys who was born and just kind of live his whole life within maybe 10, 15 mile radius of where he's at. And, you know, coming from southeastern China in a small village, there's very much a culture of filial piety. Essentially, you do whatever your parents tell you to do. Mm-hmm. So when I was 14-year-old, my dad really surprised me. He told me that he's made a deal with smugglers, and they call snakeheads in China, and they were going to send me to the US. And between that point and me leaving China was just 4 or 5 days. And just like that, I went from selling watermelon on the street to hitching an international flight to Newark Airport. And of course, I didn't speak English, and I knew nothing about any other place from where I was coming from. And the immigration official picked it up pretty quickly, and they realized that I'm not from the U.S. and they put me in a detention facility, and then they sent me to a detention facility in Philadelphia. I was there for 1.5 years before they sent me to Chicago. That's where I met Maria.
So you were 14 years old. You landed in this country at Newark International Airport. Those of us who've been to Newark International Airport know how crazy that is. Then you went to Philadelphia, and then you were there for 1.5 years before you went to Chicago.
Right.
Oh my God! It's just when you stop to think about the time of that, of a 14-year-old boy, who is then doesn't know the language, completely unsure, and now he ends up in Chicago. And then Maria, how is it that you got introduced to Young?
Sure. So I just want to let people know, so Young was in Philadelphia. He was it was a detention facility, and he was there for a full 1.5 years. And then they transferred him to Chicago, which is where we met. This was at the very beginning of the Child Advocate Program. And so I was serving as Young's child advocate. I do not speak Mandarin. So my first meetings with Young, I had a dictionary, a Chinese English dictionary, and we would pass it back and forth, and we managed to communicate pretty well. So Young had an uncle here in the United States, and so what we were aiming for at that point was to get Young released to his uncle. But I just want to give you a little bit of background about how this smuggling snakehead arrangement works. So the snakeheads are the smugglers in China, and they transport people, young people, kids, and adults over to the US. And if they successfully get them here and out of detention, now that child owes money. And when Young came to the US, he had a debt of $65,000. Today, the debt is upwards of $80,000. So essentially, these kids end up being indentured servants in the United States. So I met Young in the shelter in Chicago and became his advocate, and we worked really hard to get him released to his uncle in Ohio, and we were successful at getting Young out of custody and to his uncle.
Bravo. So we think happy ending, ... end of story. Young is in Ohio. There's a show tune, Why Oh Why Ohio. I'll spare you the show tune. And then Young, what happens?
Right. So after I was released to stay with my uncle, and that's when I, got the news that the way this whole system works is essentially the moment after I get released, I'm required to pay smuggler back a large sum of money. And at that time, it was roughly $65,000, like Maria was mentioning. And obviously that came as a huge shock to me. I was still 15, 16-year-old. And what I supposed to do was essentially run away and get into hiding and then start washing dishes and waiting tables and, maybe spend the next 20, 30 years to pay off that amount. And I still did that, but I stayed in Ohio and I kind of, washed dishes and wait table a little bit. But at the same time, I enrolled myself to a local high school. I actually did pretty well, much to the dismay of my father and obviously the smugglers who just want their money. In the meantime, I had to report to the ICE facility in Cleveland, Ohio, once a month. I did that for several months. And then one time they told me, okay, you have been attending regularly. There's no need for you to come every month. Just check back every 3 months. And then a few weeks later, I got a call and they say, hey, how come you haven't showed up? You missed your appointment. Immediately, I took a couple buses and showed up in an ICE facility at Cleveland. And they told me that they have ordered to deport me to China. And they sent me to Chicago first.
All of a sudden you arrive and then they're like, now you're detained and you're going back to China.
Right, and then they put handcuffs and shackles on me, And I was basically placed in jail overnight until they can send me to Chicago via flight.
So then you're back in Chicago, and then chapter 2 with Maria Walchen comes in.
Right, so we found out that Young was back in Chicago and found out what happened, and immediately went and met with Young. He had a solo practitioner lawyer, and together we called the lawyer. The lawyer had never returned any of Young's phone calls, but we managed to get through to him. And what he said to us is, there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can do. And by the way, I want more money, but there's nothing I can do. So we didn't know what to do. Young knew he was going to be deported. We really tried to stop his deportation, but we weren't able to do that. Young, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk about what happened next at the airport.
Right, so I knew I was going to get deported, and essentially the only reason I was in Chicago is just so they can send me away via international flight. And in the airport, I was really scared because, prior to that, I had gotten the news that the snakeheads were really upset of me because I was supposed to be paying them back the money I owed. And, essentially if I was going to return to China, they would be ready for me, and my life would be in danger, and the lives of my family members would be in danger. It was almost like a situation where if I would have just died in the US, maybe they figure, well, the guy's dead and there's no money to collect. Maybe they can move on. So at the time I was really scared. I know I couldn't go back to China. So while I was in the airport, panic kind of set in, and I ran towards the wall and banged my head against the wall, and I passed out. So afterwards, they had to send me to Houston while they tried to get another ticket to send me back to China.
Right, so Young was, he was hurt, so they couldn't put him on that plane back to China. So they kept him overnight until he was better, and then they flew him to Houston, to a place that was really more like a jail. And that was where we knew we had to find a lawyer for Young. So we got on the phone and made a lot of phone calls and finally reached an attorney named John Sullivan. It was late at night. I remember telling him, John, this is not going to be an easy case. It's not a slam dunk. I want you to know it's a really, really hard case. And John said, I don't care. I'm going to take this case. And he was at a big law firm, Fulbright and Jaworski. He put 5 other attorneys on the case, and they fought for a full year in almost every court, state court, federal court, immigration court, to get Young his, status to stay here. And Young, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, just like what Maria was describing, I don't know how much manpower and time and effort went behind my case, because I was still only 15, 16 years old at the time. John and his team of attorneys essentially took my case to Third Circuit Court. And at that point, they realized that given what happened to me, I actually qualified for a special immigration juvenile status if I was able to get a federal court judge to grant that. So we actually went back to a district court, and the judge agreed that in my case, I was essentially abandoned. And, because most parents wouldn't send their kids away with a $65,000 debt, and they are 14-year-old and they own their own. So the judge decided that I would be able to go through family court. And then our case went to family court, and then family court judge granted my state. And after that, I was able to qualify to get a green card. And John and Christy at that point, and Christy Sullivan is John's wife, of course. At the time, they asked me if I want to stay with them. So I agreed. I moved in and stayed with them. I got my green card. And then I became a US citizen. And of course, today my name is Young Zheng Sullivan because John and Christy Sullivan are my parents now.
It's a cry, tears, tingles down the spine. Such a beautiful story, Young. And then now, so you got your green card, and then on top of that, talk about stepping into and realizing the American dream. Where are you now?
Right, and after I became a U.S. citizen, I went back, I got a graduate school degree, and then now I work for a big company here in North Carolina.
Amazing. So I'm just present to one, just like just imagining how a 15-year-old could do that by themselves, and it's absolutely impossible. So it is because of you, Maria, and the Young Center team that, that stories like Young's can have happy endings. You know, that they can come to this country as they want to realize and step into their full promise. So thank you so much, Young, for being with us. Thank you for your support and your work of the Young Center. Maria, thank you so much for all the amazing work that you do. And the program is going to continue. We do have some people that have joined us. We have now 147 guests at our event. If you feel inspired to introduce yourself and share your name in the chat, people have been doing that. We are midst in our program here, and it is my pleasure to introduce one of our surprises for our event this evening, which is an artist named Nicolas Sanchez. Nicolas, are you there?
I am.
Oh, no.
Hi, Nicolas. Oh my God. Hi.
Hi.
So friends, we are zooming in live for a very special event. This is artist Nicolas Sanchez. They're at Highline 9. You're in Chelsea, in New York City. And an opportunity we have a special little game for our event tonight, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And just quickly, a little bit about Nicolas. He is a renowned artist. I'm a huge, huge fan. I may get a little gaga because I'm a huge fan. I love what he does. And he has, his work has been shown all over the world. He's had artist residencies in New York City, in China, in the Dominican Republic, in Venice. His work was featured during the Venice Biennale in 2015. His work has been featured in Vogue Italia, in Vanity Fair, in New York Magazine, in Drawing Magazine, and in Fine Art Connoisseur. And I feel like that's just like the labels, but there's just so much more heart in who you are that just is so much bigger than any of these accolades. So it's an opportunity for you to share about who you are and your work and the special event that we have planned for this evening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Eduardo, for that. That was amazing. I'm super honored and privileged to have, we have Maricarmen, we have Argelia. They're from Ballet Nepantla, it's a dance company based in New York City. And they're going to basically do their thing. They're going to dance, and I'm going to paint them live.
So you're going to be painting them live as they're dancing. So that's not going to happen now, but we are going to let you know that we're setting up the space, and in about 30 minutes, we're going to come back in and we're going to watch the artist live. And Nicolas, just an opportunity for you to introduce yourself and your work and your point of view and what it is that inspires you as an artist.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes. Well, my work, I've been a full-time artist for several years now, and the overarching concept of my work is this idea of inheritance. My family's from Mexico, and I was born and raised in Michigan in the rural Midwest. And so my work really focuses on that bicultural upbringing as a Mexican American. So that's what my work is about. I have some examples here of my work. And I'm also working on a really big project focusing on these beautiful dancers here at my residency space here in Chelsea. So you can take a quick look.
I mean, hashtag no big deal. That's gorgeous space in Chelsea. And, you know, I think it's important to also, AJ is like, wow, what a studio. It's like, I think those of us who live in New York are like, I'd like to live there. That seems really nice. I'd love that amount of space and that ceiling. But I think, Nicolas, I would be remiss to not give an opportunity to share, for you to share about your responsibility of giving back, right? Because I think that there's such an important commitment, not only just to the opportunities you've had, but like your commitment to service as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, I, you know, like many of our immigrant parents and grandparents who moved to the U.S. to create a better life for the following generations. I'm an example of that. You know, my parents came from Mexico, and I'm taking that opportunity to the bank. I'm trying to like really do try to live my life through my passion, and part of that is not only just creating the artwork that allows me to express myself, but also really try to find ways to create opportunities for other people that are sharing a similar experience as me. So basically, I have the Nicolas V. Sanchez Art Scholarship Program that I started that gives financial aid to a recipient every year, and also my mentorship. And the scholarships are for incoming Latino students. So opportunities like that is what I'm trying to create with my artwork.
Amazing. Thank you, Nicolas. And Maricarmen and Argelia, if we can see just a little bit of the dresses moving a little bit, because we're going to get the painting of that. Look at that color. Look at that life. We're going to get the live artwork of that in a little bit, but they're going to continue prepping. So thank you so much. We'll be zooming back to you in about 30 minutes. So keep setting up and we'll come back to capture you painting live. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Priscilla Mónico Marin. She is the managing attorney. Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, Eduardo.
How are you? Awesome. So you're the managing attorney in the New York office, and you're going to share a little intro about a very special advocate and dear friend of the Young Center.
Yes, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And thank you everyone for joining us this evening. We feel so incredibly grateful to have you. In May of 2019, the story broke about the horrific conditions immigrant children and adults were experiencing in Border Patrol processing centers. As the Young Center prioritized advocating for the most vulnerable children trapped in this crumbling system, compassionate people from around the nation and the world began reaching out to find out how they could help. And that's when we had the good fortune to meet one of our literary heroes, Isabel Adiende. We were introduced to the good folks at the Isabel Adiende Foundation by our friends at Refuge Point, and we are so grateful for the foundation's support for our Child Advocate Program. Tonight, we are so proud to introduce Miss Allende herself to talk about why our work with immigrant children matters to her in a video she created exclusively for you all. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Isabel Allende, and I am talking to you from my home in California. I'm very proud and happy that my foundation supports Young Center. This organization is vital today. It helps children who come to this country on their own, and they come because they are desperate. The work that they do today is more important than ever. It's vital because of everything that is happening in our country today, all the horrible things that are happening at the border also. My heart goes to Young Center and to the children they serve. In the last few years, I have seen how immigrants have been targeted in a brutal way. This is nothing new in this country or in the world. Every new wave of immigrants is usually confronted with hostility, hatred, mistrust. However, in this case, it is worse because we are talking about children who come to this country seeking for protection, for asylum, for safety, sometimes, often, looking for their parents. So the fact that that is happening today makes this country look really bad in the world, and we look at our souls and we do feel very bad about it too. I have been an immigrant, a political refugee, and I know what it is to be in a new country trying to find your way. Can you imagine what that is for a child? Most of them don't even speak the language. They don't have anybody. And often they are sent back, deported, to places where they have run away because they are not safe. My latest book, A Long Petal of the Sea, is a story of refugees. It's the story of 2,200 refugees from the Spanish Civil War, which in 1939 emigrated to Chile. they left Europe, where they were in concentration camps, and they came to Chile, where they were very well received. And this is a happy story of refugees. Why did I write about that? Because the theme is in the air. We are hearing about refugees, asylum seekers, and immigrants everywhere. And I think that literature has a role to play, to remind people about the past, to connect people, and to make people understand that what happens to somebody else can happen to us. We are all one family. And this virus, this COVID-19, has proven to us that we are one family in one planet. And so we have to have solidarity and help each other, especially the young ones, the most vulnerable, the children. So I am really happy to support Young Center, and I hope that their work will give good results and change people's minds and help thousands and thousands of children who are having a very hard time.
What we're going to do is we're going to move to a new conversation. We're going to introduce Maritza Leyva Martinez. And Maritza Leyva Martinez is a volunteer coordinator for the Young Center in Harlingen, Texas. She was born in Guerrero, Mexico, and was raised in Houston, Texas. And she holds an MFA in fiction from Arizona State University. So Maritza is about to be joining us, and we're going to have a beautiful conversation with the author Valeria Luiselli. So we are going to have a moment here for Maritza to join us. We're getting some shout outs from Maritza from the group. Olivia Peña is saying, woohoo, Maritza!
Hi, hello everyone.
Awesome. So Maritza, it's so awesome to have you here. Thank you for the amazing work that you do on behalf of the Young Center. And I'm really excited for this conversation that you're going to have with Valeria.
Me too.
And I think you're going to also introduce Valeria.
Yes, I am. I don't know why, I'm just waiting. I'm just really excited. Okay, so Valeria Luiselli is the author of award-winning books, including Lost Children's Archive and Tell Me How It Ends, and a winner of an American Book Award and the Guggenheim Fellowship for the Creative Arts. So yeah, we're actually just really excited. So I can't wait for her to join us.
We may just have a little kiki over here, Maritza, as we wait for Valeria to join us. So now you have an MFA in creative writing, is that true?
I do. I have an MFA in creative writing from Arizona State University, and yes. So yeah. I don't know, I'm going to say this in Spanish, pero estoy muy emocionada de poder platicar un ratito con Valeria. Es un honor para mí.
Fantástico. Y yo sé que a veces uno se excita como, como fan de sus héroes cuando tienes una oportunidad de hablar con ellos. So, so to translate for those, I'll translate on my behalf, that sometimes, you know, knowing that you're going to be meeting with or chatting with someone who is a dear hero, you know, someone who you look up to, you know, we can get excited about that. So I know we are looking for Valeria to join us momentarily. So Maritza, what is it that in her work that inspires you the most?
Well, in her work, what inspires me the most, I just love that she goes all in. I know when I was a student, I read about her project when she started writing the Lost Children's Archive and her travels down to the border. And that kind of really inspires me because she's just submerging herself in the work. And, you know, some of us are lucky that we have the time and the privilege to actually be able to do this work and give a little extra. And she's one of those people, you know, she's a court interpreter for some of the children in the New York City office, and just the children that are in the shelters down there, up there. So that's really it. I love that about her fiction in the Lost Children's Archive and Tell Me How It Ends, that essay in 40 questions, because she's bearing witness and in bearing witness, also honoring the voices of the children, which I find is really hard to do. You know, always questioning, is this the right way to approach it? And I really admire that about her. Oh, there she goes.
And there she is.
Yes.
Valeria.
Oh, sorry, but I live in a very old house, and if we have more than one AC connected, the whole se caen los fusibles, and the light goes out, so the internet goes out. So
Valeria,
I hope it doesn't happen again. I've asked my.
We get the people are joining in the various ways that they have to join, navigating the various electrical outlets and things that they have to join. We're grateful that you're here. Yeah. I'm gonna exit stage left, and I'm gonna.
The pleasure. Hi, Maritza.
The two of you.
Hi, Valeria. Mucho gusto. Es un honor poder platicar contigo.
I really hope my internet doesn't fail me.
Okay, well, let's hope.
And... Dime si me escuchas bien.
Sí, sí te escucho bien. Perfecto. Okay, muy bien. We will get started then. We already introduced you, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Lost Children's Archive. So the first question that I have for you about this wonderful work of fiction is, who are the lost children?
Who are the lost children? It's, I think, a very, very good and difficult question to answer. But the way I understand it is similar to what happened to the generations that grew up between wars and who were robbed of the right to childhood. Right? So the lost children that I speak about in my novel are those children not only in this particular diaspora of children from the Northern Triangle in Mexico fleeing situations of extreme violence to search for asylum or other forms of protection in the US. Also children across the world who have to migrate for similar reasons, political violence or domestic violence or poverty, or for climate reasons, as we will see in the world more and more, climate refugees. And those are the children who are robbed of the right to childhood, basically, who have to become adults too soon and have to make adult decisions and have a kind of agency and a kind of courage that they do have, but which definitely stunts an important part of childhood, which is to perhaps to be able to grow slowly into this very difficult and fucked up world.
Yes, definitely. You touch upon that. Another thing that I'm really interested in is there's an important thread in the novel where the mother grapples with the ethics of documenting these lost children's stories. And at some point, the mother lists the political, aesthetic, ethical concerns behind her privilege to bear witness, which you've done a lovely job at. So though this work is rooted in fiction, there's certainly some truth behind these concerns. So as an author who has borne witness to these children in this work, what is the author's responsibility?
Right. Let me give you maybe some context as well. So for those listeners who maybe haven't read the novel and are wondering where this conversation comes from, no? or in this particular question, which I think is a very, very important one. When I started writing Lost Children Archive, I didn't know that I was starting a novel. I was really just making notes in a journal because I was bewildered by the news that had just broken out that summer. This was the summer of 2014, and which was that there were around 60,000 children that had arrived in the US between October of 2013 and that summer of 2014, and who were here alone and were seeking asylum and were in some kind of immigration limbo, a lot of them. And I couldn't wrap my head around that thought, around how could it be that that these children were in this kind of limbo, what was going to happen to them. And so I started following the news very, very obsessively, I would say. And it just so happened that that summer I was also in the middle of applying for a green card to become a permanent resident in the US after having been a student here for many years. And you can't leave the US when you apply for a green card until that green card comes. My case became kind of complicated because it took around 2 years in which I couldn't leave the state. So in any case, I was dealing with a very mild immigration issue, in fact, and looking at this immense problem. And when I say problem, it's not the children themselves who were a problem, but the way that institutions were dealing with a surge of arrival in children. And we're dealing with it the way I thought about it, with cruelty and with a lack of basic humanity. So I started just taking note, making note of the things I heard. And I was that summer traveling with my family by car across the USA. We drove from New York to the Mexico-US border in Arizona. We wanted to get close to Mexico somehow, be almost there, but not quite. I had never seen the Arizona border, or I had traveled many times between Tijuana and San Diego as a kid because.
Oh, Valeria, I think we lost you. We're just going to wait a few.
Are you there still?
Sorry. Yes, we lost you for a second.
Okay. Yeah, te congelaste también.
Okay.
Anyway, so I started, as I was saying earlier, just making notes about what I heard during this trip that I took with my family in the summer of 2014 between New York and Arizona. And the things that I made note about were fundamentally what local newspapers were saying about the children's crisis, what things I overheard in diners about the presence of Hispanics in the US. Like for the first time, I was traveling the US, like seeing a deeper country in a much deeper and closer way. And I was, I guess, not surprised, but not always happy with the way that the narrative around Hispanics is created. No? I mean, we are seen as a kind of foreign presence, even though this country, before it became this country, was already a Hispanic country because of Spain's own colonialist atrocities in this country. So, but the Hispanic presence has been here since forever, since this country is what it is now, and yet there's always a kind of foreignness, a narrative of foreignness about Hispanics here. Anyway, so I just took note of that. I returned to New York after that summer and decided to get involved more actively in the crisis. So I asked a couple of lawyer friends of mine how I could get involved, how I could be useful, basically. And a lawyer said, yes, you can actually be very useful because you're bilingual and we need people in the courts to screen children or translate the screenings so that we can find lawyers. Basically similar to the work that the Young Center does. But in this case, I started working with the door just as a volunteer, interpreter, and screener children. And I by then already deep into writing this novel. But then I realized that after working in court for a while, that I would come back home at night and kind of dump a lot of the political frustration, rage, sadness, and the stories themselves that I was hearing onto this fictional thing that I was trying to write. And then I realized something's wrong here. I'm doing things all wrong. I'm writing an unreadable novel. It's just like this dump of my own frustration. And it's not quite ethical, I think, to simply transpose a set of narratives that I was listening to in court and then put them in a space and call them fiction. So I stopped writing the novel altogether, and I wrote a small book called Tell Me How It Ends, which is a very direct testimony of someone who observed the situation closely, but as an observer. I'm not a lawyer. I myself, I am in a very, have always been here in a very privileged position as a migrant. That is, I came as a student. I was able to get an education. I was able to get a job after that. And I mean, life has not always been easy, but I understand profoundly that I occupy a space of privilege within my own community. And what I understand as privilege in this context is that gives me a responsibility para con esa comunidad, with that community. And that basically means for me, and the only thing I know how to do well, I mean, I can't even cook a nice omelette, but I know how to write, and I know how to teach writing. So the way that I have understood the connection between privilege and responsibility is to write, to denounce, and also to teach writing to basically children and teenagers in detention spaces. And that is, I think, what I can do. That is as far as I can help. And I don't think that literature saves lives, but I think that literature gives us narratives to understand the world in a way that's more complex, in a way that's more nuanced, and sometimes can also make the world a more livable place because we have a narrative for it.
Yes, I completely agree, and I wholeheartedly believe that your work does that. It allows us to kind of create that space. So I'm gonna just have one more question for you based on the content, really, and it's just, why is it important for us as citizens to challenge the collective understanding of the status quo? You mentioned hearing the news on the radio, right, on the TV, all of these negative narratives behind immigration. So, or as it is described in the novel, the unflinching certitude about right and wrong, good and bad when discussing migrants and refugees here in the US.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we people, human beings, can, if not challenged about our own narratives, can very comfortably live in a state of like voluntary ignorance about things, right? Because sometimes like not looking at the truth is easier and more comfortable and less challenging. And I think that the narrative, the official narratives that serve as foundational myths in the US about, for example, how this country was founded in this exploration from east to west, in which there was nothing in the middle, and civilization was brought to the frontier, and what was barbaric was civilized. This whole myth, which is so full of lies, because there was a genocide for that to happen, and that sort of the practice of erasure of those people who don't form part of the collective imagination of a white America are systematic. It is a systematic erasure. A systematic erasure of voices, a systematic erasure of stories, but also a physical erasure, confining bodies into spaces where they are not seen and cannot participate as citizens. So, I mean, reservations after the Indian Removal Act in the late 1800s, but detention space today, detention centers today are exactly that. And of course, jails in which most of the people targeted, bodies targeted are Black and brown bodies, Black especially, and brown bodies especially in immigration detention centers. So there is the practices of silencing and erasing that begun in the foundation of this country continue in a way that is basically legalized political violence. And I think that it is important for activists, writers, artists to challenge those narratives so that we can start dismantling those systems that continue to be systems of oppression, and stop normalizing them. And I think the only way to not normalize, to not think that a detention center is a normal thing, even less so when it is detaining children. The only way really we can do that is by creating a collective narrative that does not normalize that understand that is appalling and inhuman, and that we have to change things radically.
Valeria, there was something really powerful that you said, which is literature may not save lives, but I do feel like it gives us life. So thank you so much for the amazing work that you do. And I just heard in you and also Nicolas, also the way in which I think immigrant artists feel compelled to give back and to have a tool like artistic expression to give voice to experience, which is so powerful. So Maritza, Valeria, yes. Thank you so much. Maritza, any final thought that you would like to put in?
And thank you.
Yeah, no, muchas gracias, Valeria. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. And thank you for your very brilliant questions, Maritza, and for giving me the space to talk.
Gracias.
And I think a great fan moment for Maritza and Valeria to meet that we got to witness in this context. So it was so beautiful to hear the two of you engage and have a conversation.
Ojalá en persona.
Oh, no, gracias.
So we are going to continue with our program. Thank you so much, Valeria and Maritza. So we're about midway through our program. And I just wanted to give us an update. I wanted to share an update on where we are as far as our fundraising. As I said before, coming into this event, we were at $220,000 to our goal of $250,000. So we had a gap of $30,000 that we were looking to fill. We had given some ways to donate. We're going to share those in a second. And I wanted to just give a little update. So here's where we are. So again, we had 220,000 so far. Our goal is to raise $250,000. And the news that I just got via our little programming is so far this evening, we have raised $4,700 in contributions. And we are super excited to share that we have an amazing gift from playwright and activist V, formerly E. Wenzler, who's graciously donated $20,000 to the Young Center in New York. So an unbelievable contribution. V is the author of The Vagina Monologues, again, a very famous playwright and activist who is in alignment with the amazing work that the Young Center does. So thank you so much, V, for this contribution. We are so grateful. Round of applause for V, which means that we are $5,300 away from our goal for this evening. So help us raise another $5,300 to reach our goal. You can text to donate YC to 20121 or visit theyoungcenter.org to donate. You can also visit our online auction. Again, we have books and art and various other things that you can bid on. Again, that auction will be live until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's an opportunity to do that. So we invite you to do that. And we don't want you to leave. We want you to stay with us because we have some other fun stuff left in our program. So now it is my pleasure to reintroduce Nicolas. Nicolas joining us from Highline 9 in New York. Hi.
Hello.
Hi there.
We're ready whenever you want to count us down.
Huh? I'm going to count you all. I'm going to count us all down. So ladies and gentlemen, when I say go, we're going to say 5. No, we're not going to go yet. We're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we're going to all shout bailamos. Okay, and when we say bailamos, the folkloric dancers are going to dance. I am going to time 5 minutes on my clock, and Nico is going to draw by watercolor. He's going to paint as they're dancing, and then we're going to see what comes from that experience, okay? So dancers, are you ready?
Yes.
Nico, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. ¡Bailamos! So, as I'm narrating, is doing some watercolor sketching of the dancers. Now, I can't draw to save my life, so brilliant. Epa! Okay, so that's one painting. Okay, now we're going to move on to another one. Okay, so we have about 3 minutes, Nico. We have about 3 minutes. You look so relaxed, Nicholas. Okay, so we have about 2 more minutes. We have about 2 more minutes.
2 minutes.
Are there any wishes from the audience as they're watching? Any comments to encourage the dancers? I can communicate that.
Do you have any wishes for the audience? Do you have any wishes for the audience?
Any wishes?
For the audience?
No. So I'm saying it to I'm asking the audience to comment. Let's leave the painter to paint. Here's applause. I mean, they are stunning. Oh my God. So we have about a minute left. We have about a minute left. We're getting a lot of wows from the audience, a lot of wows. People want them, the brilliance of both the painters and the dancers. Olivia is saying, una vez más, ¡Viva México! We have about 30 seconds. We have about 30 seconds. Brava! Brava! So we have about 15 seconds. We have about 15 seconds. We're getting close. Oh my God, it's breathtaking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes. Now they're going to continue working. They may continue working, but just look at that gorgeousness. Oh my gosh. I can't even the beauty. They're absolutely stunning. So you're going to continue working. You're going to continue working, maybe taking a couple more switches to the dancers. And we're going to come back. We're going to check in at the end of our program, and we're going to see if there's some other ones. So I love the presentation, ladies, at the end. That was amazing. We are going to now transition. Nicolas is going to keep on working with the dancers in the studio. Thank you. Nicolas, breathtaking work. We're all huge fans. You're getting so much love in the chat. And now it is my pleasure as we shift to introduce a champion storyteller, not just an average storyteller, a champion storyteller. His name is Nestor Gomez. He is an advocate. He is an immigrant and a 41-time Moth Slam winner. And he's been dubbed Chicago's champion storyteller. Nestor, I am just so excited to have you here. And you have a story that you're going to share with all of us. So take it away.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Okay, just making sure. First of all, let me say, this is amazing. I feel like El Patito Feo here with so many amazing, talented people. I was watching Nico drama like, what? That man is unbelievable, amazing. So let me tell you my story. When I first came to the USA from Guatemala to Chicago, I was excited because I felt that I was ready for the life here. Although I couldn't speak any English and I used to stutter, I had the advantage, or so I thought, that I had already finished high school in Guatemala and I was going to go straight to college or the university. Little did I know that once I got here to the United States, I couldn't go to college not only because I was undocumented, but also because of my age. I was only 15 years old, and because I couldn't speak any English. And it was decided that I was going to have to restart going to high school, start high school all over again. And at first I was disappointed because I'm like, I already finished high school once and now I had to do it again. But I was a nerd, so I was a little bit happy about doing high school again. But the most important thing to me was that in Guatemala, I was a nerd, but I was always the youngest and the shortest person in the class. And I thought here in the United States, I'm gonna go with people my own age. I must still be the shortest one, but at least I'm not gonna be the youngest one. I'm not gonna be a complete nerd. Maybe I could be half a nerd. Maybe I could be one of the cool guys. What if I join one of the school teams, one of the sport teams, and then instead of being a nerd, I could be a really cool guy. So I decided that was how I was going to reinvent myself, so I could be one of the cool guys. The first day of gym class, the teacher took us outside to play football, and I'm thinking, I've been playing football in Guatemala my whole life. I could score goals. I'm really good at it. I'm really good. I'm gonna be a star. But I noticed that everybody was standing in the middle of the field. And I didn't know what they were saying because I couldn't speak English. So I stepped back and I stepped all the way back to where I saw two posts that were forming a goalie. So I decided I'm going to just stand here and I'm going to play goal. And then when they see how good I am, maybe they're going to let me play forward. I was just standing there waiting for the ball when I saw the ball coming at me. And I ran to catch the ball. And when I caught it, I realized this ball is weird. It's not a round ball like we play in Guatemala to play football. This ball is egg-shaped. It's different. I was still thinking about this when the players from the other team jumped on top of me and buried me in a mountain of people. That's when I realized that we were not playing football as I knew it. We were playing American football. I hated American football. I couldn't play American football. I didn't understand American football. So after everybody got up, I pretended to be injured. So I didn't have to play American football anymore. For the rest of the weeks, the class played football, I pretended to be injured. So I didn't have to play anymore. After the American football season in the class was over, they took us inside because it was starting to get cold anyway, and they show us a swimming pool. We are going to have swimming class. Oh, they have a swimming team. I learned maybe, maybe I could be a guy that swims really good, and I could be on the swimming team. Then I'd be really cool. By now, I had already made friends with a Puerto Rican guy that was translated everything to me, and he asked me in Spanish. He asked me, "Dude, do you even know how to swim?" And I thought about that for a moment. So I remember that my father was a really good swimmer. My father could stand on the side of the pool, jump into the pool, and swim at the bottom of the pool from one end to the next, like a fish. I told my friend, my father was a great swimmer. I'm sure I have it on my genes. The first day of class, of swimming class, the teacher told everybody that could swim to the pool. So for everyone that could swim, to swim from one side of the pool to the next. So I got in the pool. I threw myself. I started to move my arms and my legs as fast as I could, as fast as I could, as fast as I could. And I was swimming, and I was swimming. And when I thought that I was gonna hit the other side of the pool, I started to think, how did my father turn around? How did he do that? I'm like, I'm sure I'll find out how to do it. I'm just gonna keep swimming. Suddenly, I felt somebody grabbing my head, my hair, and pulling me up. It was the teacher. I had not been swimming. I had been standing on the same spot, just moving my legs and my arms real quick. And he thought that I was drowning. Get out of the pool immediately, he said. I got out of the pool, went to sit next to my Puerto Rican friend, and he asked me, so you don't know how to swim, right? I'm like, no, not really. And then he asked me, does your mom knows how to swim? I thought about that for a moment. I could never recall my mom getting in the water to swim. No, I say, my mom doesn't know how to swim. My Puerto Rican friend said to me, dude, you got your mother's gene. I managed to survive the swimming class. I never really learned how to swim. I just barely learned how to float. And of course, I didn't make the swimming team. After the swimming classes were over, the gym teacher announced that we were going to have classes indoors, gym classes indoors, but now we're going to play basketball. Basketball is the worst sport for somebody short like me. So for the next couple of weeks, I spent gym class running from one end of the court to the other end of the court with nobody passing the ball to me. Just running from one side to the other, nobody passing the ball to me. One day, the teacher divided our class into two teams and we played against one another. On the other team were some of the basketball players from the high school team. They were really good, especially one guy that was blocking everybody. Pow! He was a bully. He was blocking everybody and going, I blocked you. Get out of here. Blocking everyone. Suddenly, my Puerto Rican friend took the ball and tried to score a point, but the bully jumped in front of him, blocked him. He hit the ball so hard that it bounced. The ball bounced, and somehow it landed right on my hands. Now, my first thought was like, get rid of the ball. They're going to jump on top of you like they did on the football game. But then I'm like, no, this is the first time I grabbed the ball. So I started to bounce the ball on the floor. And then I started to run with the ball. And then I got close to the basket and I took one step, two steps, three steps. And then I jumped. And I even stuck my tongue out like I seen Michael Jordan on the videos. The bully saw me and he ran and he jumped in front of me, ready to block me. He thought I was trying to dunk the ball. There's no way that I could dunk a ball. I know better. What I was trying to do was trying to get his attention so I could take the ball, throw it on the ground, and pass it to my Puerto Rican friend that was on the other side of the court. And that's exactly what happened. My friend caught the ball, bounced it wrong, and he dunked it right in front of the bully. Yeah! We celebrated as if we had just won the freaking championship. We were celebrating and we were like making fun of the bully. On your face, we got you. On your face, we got you. The bully got mad. He grabbed the basketball and he threw it at me hard. I saw the ball coming right at me and I froze. I kept looking at the ball, but I didn't freeze because I was afraid. I froze because I knew exactly what to do. I stuck out my chest. I stopped the ball with my chest. It bounced up in the air, and then I watched the ball come down slowly, 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 slowly. And before it hit the ground, I kicked it really hard, straight on the direction of the bully. Now, I know how to play football really well. I know how to kick a ball. But I don't know this, if you know this, but basketballs are not supposed to be kicked. So the ball moved in the direction of the bully, and then he made a left turn, and it almost hit the gym teacher. Come with me, he said. I didn't know what he was saying, but I could tell I was in trouble. So I followed him. I knew that I was going to get expelled. He kept walking in the direction of the principal office. That was it. I was done. I was not going to be one of the cool guys. I was going to be expelled. But then he made a turn and went into another teacher's office. He pointed at me and said, soccer. Now, I didn't know that much English, but I knew that soccer was something like dumb. And I thought maybe he was insulting me, so I started to walk out of there. But before I could get out, the other teacher said in Spanish, ¿Quieres jugar fútbol? And I said, football, no. Me, football, no. And then he pointed to a poster on the wall, and then I saw it. It was a poster for the soccer team. And then the teacher explained to me that that's how they call football in this country, soccer. Of course, I knew how to play soccer. I've been playing soccer my whole life. Yes, I was amazing. I could score so many goals. I was going to be on a team. I was going to be the captain. I was going to be a star. I was going to be so cool. So I went to the tryouts, and of course, I made the team. And I played every single game for all the seasons. But I never scored a single goal because I played defense the whole season. Thank you.
Bravo! So, Nestor, just so you know, the storytelling, we're getting thank you, amazing, so captivating, bravissimo, you're amazing, the boss of storytelling, I love Nestor, amazing storyteller, this is so amazing, love this story, cisne through and through, love you, Nestor, eres grande. So, I mean, just so much love. I just want to acknowledge you, Nestor, being a storyteller in this Zoom space without the call and response of an audience can be challenging. And I just think you did it so beautifully. You were so
thank you.
You were so generous. You were clearly connecting to all of us, you know, the 140 of us that are joining and participating all over the United States. Just beautiful and just such a celebration. And I had a moment of fear that when you did this, like you were going to bite your tongue, and I'm so grateful that you didn't. So grateful that it was not busy. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such an important cause for me as an undocumented immigrant, somebody who knows what the kids are going through right now. This is so important to me as well. Thank you so much for having me.
And your voice and your story, and even overcoming the stuttering and the language. I mean, you're just a testament to courage and the power for fighting for your own voice and your own story. So
well, they call me the boss Gomez, but it's not because of how many wins I had. It's because boss is how we call each other in Guatemala. Hey, boss. And boss in Spanish translate to, boys in Spanish translate to boss. So that's what the boss means to me, is that I have a voice, that I finally have a voice. Not only because I can speak without stuttering, but I can speak English with a sexy Latino accent. And now I am a USA citizen, so I really have a voice now.
Yes, y eres jefe también, that I will also say. So Nestor, un placer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For you, Nestor. And now it's my pleasure. We have another video that we're going to share. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed on this one. I think, Noorjahan, you've got it. And it's Ilana Glazer, and she's an award-winning comedian, a director, a producer, a writer, and Broad City actress. Ilana couldn't join us this evening, but she had some words that she wanted to share with all of us. So we're going to cue that up. Some words from Ilana Glazer.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ilana Glazer. Hello. And I am proud to support the Young Center because they are doing phenomenal superhero level work right now, right here in New York City. They are protecting the rights of immigrant children who come to the U.S. on their own or who are taken from their families at the border. Oh man, their work has been so critical, but it is especially vital right now because of all that's happening in our country. And tonight, I'm asking you to support the Young Center too, so we can help more immigrant children get out of detention and back to their families where they belong. Okay, in March, the government closed the border to asylum seekers, including children. For months, the government has been turning away children who made the long journey here alone. Instead, ICE is putting children on flights back to the countries from which they fled without figuring out why the children came here, whether or not they have anyone to return to, and whether or not the children will be safe. That should not be who we are as a nation, and it is damn sure not who we are as New Yorkers. Today in New York, there are 2,000 detention beds for immigrant children, more than 1,200 of them, right here in New York City. Many of the children in New York are under 12 years old. God bless the Young Center, who is working with many of the youngest children in the system, including toddlers and infants. I've been a Young Center supporter since the early days of the parent-child separation crisis because they are the ones on the front lines, the individuals, the human beings standing by these kids while they're separated from their families, fighting for them every step of the way. I hope you, watching tonight, will consider making a gift right now to help more immigrant children in government custody. I know this is a time where it's hard to be asking people for money, but even 20 bucks would make a difference, especially 20 bucks from a bunch of people. If you know you can do 100 bucks, I invite you to push it to 110. Anything you can contribute will help. Tell your friends, tell your families. Together, we can help more immigrant children get released and be reunited with their families where they belong. And the Young Center is doing what is making our country what we wish it would be about, which is dignity, providing dignity and human rights for immigrants. So please consider contributing and have a good one. Be safe.
So yes, so this is an opportunity. We're winding down with our program, to take that moment. I know that we are living in the midst of, at the intersection of multiple pandemics. And there is an opportunity to see where is it that we can give, where can our hearts and our wallets and our opportunity to show up and serve these children, where can we dig in this moment to think of them and how we can support the Young Center. And where we want to go is from Chicago to Nicolas Sanchez. Nicolas, we are live in Chelsea. So here we are. So now we're going to get a chance to see some of the work. So let us zoom in over here. Oh my gosh.
So these are the watercolors that I did live, and these are my attempt at capturing motion with a medium that I'm not very familiar with, but why not let this be experimental all the way around? So it's the first time I painted live on any online platform, and one of the first times I've painted with watercolor.
I mean, Nicolas, stop it. Just stop it. They're breathtaking. They are so gorgeous. I can't even handle how beautiful they are. I love that you're hashtag no big deal. I mean, this is the first time that I'm doing movement. This is the first time I'm doing watercolor. This is the first time I'm painting in this medium. This is the first time I'm painting da-da-da-da. And this is kind of my attempt. And
yeah, taking chances. That's what it's all about.
It is breathtaking. It is so breathtaking. I am so not, sending you airy nothings. That is profound.
Thank you so much.
Can we just have a little moment with the dancers, señoritas?
Of course.
What does it feel like? What does it feel like to see yourself in those paintings?
It's amazing, and it's such an honor. I mean, we love doing this. We love going on stage and to be able to dance for him, to do what he loves to do, and for such a good cause today. It's just truly an honor. So thank you for having us. Thank you very much.
Oh my God. And just just such a beautiful honoring of both of your culture and your heritage and your movement. You look absolutely stunning. You know, the colors are beautiful, the flowers and the hair, like all of it is just such a beautiful celebration of lineage, of culture, of heritage, all of it. And it's just, we could see it in the grace of your movement, and it was just so beautiful to see it captured by Nicolas on watercolor, hashtag no big deal for the first time, hashtag no big deal, hashtag nailing it, hashtag all the hashtags with your hat, being super low key and super chill as you were making magic.
Thank you so much.
So for those of you who are watching, we have a special surprise, right? Which is, Nicolas, what is that surprise?
The surprise is that it is my honor to donate these paintings to the Young Center, and everybody watching is allowed to bid on these one-of-a-kind pieces.
So hashtag no big deal. So one-of-a-kind works that you just did for all of us are being donated to the Young Center for auction. So for those of you who are watching, just so you know, we're going to share an auction site where these will be live. They are so unbelievably stunning. I think that's my favorite. The one up there with the woman looking at her feet. I just absolutely love that one. They are gorgeous. I loved also the aerial view, that one that you're imagining. I imagine you being a drone with your imagination as you were like on top doing it. So there's going to be an auction site. They're going to be live, and you can bid on these one-of-a-kind paintings. The audience is saying, thank you so much, incredible, gracias, you're so kind and awesome, thank you. AJ's like, I want, exclamation point, absolutely. So we'll have the auction site, that'll be live, and they're gonna be available from right now until 8 p.m. tomorrow night, okay? So for those of you who are watching, they're available from right now until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And Nicolas, we're going to say thank you so much. Thank you so much to all the dancers. Thank you so much to your partners who allowed this to happen. So we are just so grateful for this partnership, and so grateful for your spirit and your creativity, and for doing this live for all of us. Okay?
Thank you so much, Eduardo. I want to say thank you so much to Ballet Nepantla, Maricarmen, Argelia. I want to say thank you to the Young Center and to the Highline for giving us this beautiful space, and just for all of you for watching. And please bid, please raise money for a good cause, and you'll pick up a piece of art. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Breathtaking. So we're back. So we're going to get a little bit of an update. So where are we in relationship to our goal for the evening? So again, we're wrapping ourselves up. So Nurjahan, why don't we just pull up where we're at? Oh my God, we made the goal! Yeah! So we have raised $259,262 for immigrant children. Thank you so much. Oh my God, like a moment to celebrate, everybody. Let's elevate it, sparkle it. Let's pump the fists. Wow, incredible. We're getting the woohoos, the woo-woots, the yays, the yas. You know, the thank yous to the donors and the development team and all the extraordinary people who made this possible. So just a moment to just celebrate this accomplishment. So what a beautiful, beautiful testament to the work of the Young Center and this community that we have raised $259,262 for immigrant children. And this is an extraordinary accomplishment, and the need is immense. At every Young Center office around the country, there is a wait list of children who need advocates. And with your help, the Young Center can support more kids. So please, please continue bidding for the auction. The auction, I made a mistake. Doesn't close at 8 p.m. tonight. It closes at 10 p.m. tonight. So all of our auction items at this address, bit.ly/YCNY-auction. All of those things will be live until 10 p.m. this evening. You can still bid there. So there's more for us to raise. Also, Nico's art is going to be available right now until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. those one-of-a-kind paintings. We're going to have pictures of them so you can choose and bid on the ones that you desire. Those will also be live until tomorrow, and all of that will be money raised, counted towards our goal. So what a beautiful accomplishment. We've reached our goal, and it's a yes and. We're in the space of yes and. And with that, it's my pleasure to bring back Maria Walchen, the executive director of the Young Center, for an opportunity to kind of wrap up our evening here, do some final acknowledgements, and just finish with a bang. So Maria, are we back?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Well, first of all, Eduardo Placer, thank you so, so much. You were so amazing, and you just made this evening just wonderful. Thank you so much for your generosity, and you're just the best. I mean, it just was amazing from beginning to end. The Mariachi Sirenas, Young, thank you so much for telling your story, and even more for lending your name to the Young Center. Valeria and Maritza, it was a wonderful conversation. Ximena, that song was so fantastic. I need to find a recording and play it over and over. Nestor, your fantastic story. A friend texted me while you were on to say her family, including kids, were just absolutely mesmerized. They really loved it. And Nico and the dancers from Ballet Nepantla Dance Company, that was amazing. I have to have one of those paintings. I know there are a lot of you out there who are gonna duke it out with me, but we'll see what happens. And then lastly, I wanna thank all the people who are behind the scenes tonight. Some of you are in front of the camera, but all of you who made this evening possible. Nurjahan Akbar, you put together just an amazing event. Connie Mustakas, AJ Albanak, Maddie Witters, Lorena Gonzalez, Moise Barmal, Abena Hutchful, and Priscilla Monaco Marin. Thank you so, so, so very much. These are tough times right now for immigrants, including children. And for all of you who joined tonight, thank you so much for your support, which is just so, so critical right now. Thank you very much. And Eduardo, once again, thank you.
Maria, we're getting such beautiful, comments and feedback, from the people who are in attendance, and I know that, benefits and fundraising events, can be awkward, and, I think it was a leap of faith for you to say, here we go, let's try to do this in a virtual landscape. And so thank you for saying yes to the opportunity. We have such joy from the people who are here. And it's been a beautiful evening, and I feel so honored. I didn't know of the Young Center's work until 3 weeks ago, and I am a lifelong fan, lifelong supporter. And again, taking my privileges in this country, having been born a citizen and knowing that that was not a privilege that was granted to my parents or to my grandparents, that I can continue to be in service of that, and the people on your team who ensure that young children, when they come into this country, have what they need to ensure that they are treated justly and fairly and humanely. So thank you so much, Maria, for your work. Thank you all so much for participating. And we do have a special premiere, which we're all very excited, which is a 6-minute film around the Young Center. So please stay tuned. I love we're getting families belong together. Absolutely, yes, they do. Immigrant children are children. Yes, they are. And Nurjahan, you're extraordinary. You're behind the scenes. She's the one who's been kind of managing the speakers and the panelists and all of that other stuff. Connie and I have a little a WhatsApp text messaging thing going on to make sure that everything is being managed. So Nurjahan, as we transition, just a moment of gratitude for you.
Yes,
you've been really the brains behind this whole opportunity, and nobody can see you, and she is the one orchestrating this whole thing. So thank you for making this happen. And with that, we're gonna pull away and we're gonna bring the screen on. All of you, thank you so much. for staying on. I invite you to stay for another 6 minutes to see this gorgeous film about the Young Center and its work. And don't forget that the auction site is still live until 10 p.m. Nico's art is available until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. And any of the money that we raise within the next 24 hours will be counted towards our goal. Thank you so much. And here we go.
Me llamo Isabel Gomez, soy de Guatemala. Cuando salí de mi país fue una gran tristeza para mí. Es algo más triste que puede pasar a un ser humano, es dejar la familia, dejar a quien lo amas.
Unaccompanied kids come to the United States from all over the world. These are kids who are fleeing conditions in their own countries. It may be that they're being threatened because of what's happening in their country politically. It may be that there's a war in their country and they're fleeing violence.
These journeys are incredibly dangerous, and then they arrive in the United States and they are hopeful that they're finally going to be safe. And instead, they are taken into government custody.
By the fact that they're not in their parents' care, either because they entered unaccompanied or because they were separated, we consider them vulnerable.
The Young Center's ultimate goal is to create a new system for children who are seeking protection in the United States as immigrant youth that treats them first as children.
Our role as child advocate is to fight for the best interests of unaccompanied and separated immigrant children.
When we talk about best interest, we're talking about the interests that children have in their safety, family, integrity and unity, to well-being. That's what we mean when we say best interest for children.
Immigration courts, immigration law is tailored to adults. It's not designed to look out for what's best for children.
They're thrown into a legal system where the government says you don't have a right to be here, now prove that you do.
When the door opens and the child walks in and sees someone dressed in the robe with the big seal and then sitting higher than the rest of the persons in the courtroom, it's terrifying. I had many children either freeze where they wouldn't speak to me or turn around and run for the door. And I'm the judge required by law and regulation to ensure that that child understands what his or her rights are and what forms of relief that child might be eligible for. It is virtually impossible to get from point A to point B.
The child advocate's role is to go in and learn what that child wants, learn their story, and then advocate for them.
Una acompañante que me acompañó ahí una vez a la semana, ella me acompañaba y en ese tiempo lo conté todo y es una persona que a mí en mi caso es bastante importante.
Child advocate is someone who can recognize the strengths of a child, who can see they're so much more than their trauma story. They are someone who has interests and dreams and hopes and share that in a holistic, comprehensive way.
Communicate with caregivers, communicate with lawyers, communicate with medical staff, so that that child's interests of health, of freedom, of safety are protected.
One of the things that I love about the Young Center is that even with a deck that is completely stacked against kids, our staff find ways to win. They may be small wins, like getting a child phone calls with her mother, Or they may be big wins, like helping a child win the right to stay here.
Whether it's getting you a new pair of tennis shoes, getting you 5 minutes of time out. If the door closes, we're gonna figure out how to get around it and find another door, or we make our own door.
Because we've been doing this work for 16 years, judges now understand what it means to get a best interest recommendation and to think about what's in that child's best interest.
There's no way to describe how much difference a child advocate can make throughout the court proceedings. They're more than a friend to the court. They help the court do what it has to. And my wish would be that this would expand to all of the courts.
I don't have all of the answers on the larger questions on immigration policy, but I do know that when it comes to kids, we have always placed children first, and we need to do the same for immigrant children who are here in the United States. We have an obligation while they are here to make sure that wherever they land, they're going to be safe.
Yo, gracias a estoy aquí en este país, aprovecho y disfruto de estar aquí. Tengo un techo donde estar y también estoy en un lugar donde estoy protegido, que si me pasa algo, tengo todo lo que necesito y tengo todo, gracias.